Four, three, two, one, start.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a continuing discussion on the war in Israel is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Welcome back. It must be 6:30 Wednesday again. I'm delighted to have an opportunity to meet with you, my precious listeners and participants in this program. You make the program, you give me wisdom. The program is called Morty Davis, the Voice of Wisdom, but as I repeat almost every week, I get the most wisdom from the listeners, from the people that drop me notes or call me. So thank you all and welcome back. And as always, I like to start with a word of wisdom about happiness. As I tell you all the time, I wrote the best book ever on happiness. It's called Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. I get compliments every single day from people who got it as gifts, from people who bought it themselves. And it's 365 pages with tips on how to be happy each day of the year. And just a quickie, I want you to realize that one of the ways to avoid misery is just don't listen to the news or watch the news, because that's going to only inspire anxiety and concern and annoyance and aggravation. So I know we all want to be more knowledgeable about it, all the things that are going on in the world, and that's worthwhile. But there's hardly any ever any good news. I've never seen a front page article where they said Lordy graduated with honors. She came from a poor family and is now getting a PhD. I just don't see any good news. You know, they don't say today there were no zero traffic jams, or today there were zero people killed on the roads. The only thing that makes news is bad news. So to the extent that you can limit your watching the news, I would recommend that. I don't want you to miss knowledge, because knowledge is fun and it's vital. So, but finally, the most important thing on being happy is to realize that it's not money, it's not material things, it's not all the things that people always think of as what causes happiness. Winning the lottery, none of that really brings happiness. I never realized till I got older now, I took it for granted when I went out to play tennis, how much I enjoyed it. But I never thought twice about the fact that my legs work. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to put on special things on my knees. I just went out and played. Today, as I aged, I not only, it doesn't help even putting on the things on my knees or getting cortisone shots in my knees. So appreciate it, even though you're not aware that what a blessing it is. And that's true of almost everything in life. Your memory goes, It's sad you have to lose somebody that you love before you really appreciate how valuable they are. Whether it's a mother, a father, a child, realize what a blessing that it is to have that person in your life. Don't wait till after they pass away and then realize or pray for them in heaven. Every day, to the extent you can, give them encouragement, tell them you love them, and love yourself. So that's the biggest secret of happiness, counting your blessings. Now let's move on to the essence of the discussions that we have today. I'm delighted to have Len Carter back again. He's a genius. He's a graduate of an alumni of the same school that I went to, Harvard Business School. He was at the top of his class, and he's just brilliant and a real asset for me and for the community and indeed for the world. Welcome back. That's why I have him back so often. I enjoy him, even though he beats up on me and disagrees with me often. But that's really how we should all kind of deal with that.
Beat up on you.
we should all deal with people we disagree with. You can disagree with somebody and even fight with them, and still at the end admire them, appreciate them, and love them, as I do, Len. So my producer prepared a list of what he wants me to cover, or he thought would be interesting for us to cover. So the first item on the list is about the Israeli Hamas situation.
So here we are, 8 weeks into the conflict, and as of just today, I think the toll is 60 Israeli women and children have been released, and a total of 21 non-Israelis, Thai and other nationals, been released. And according to the IDF, I think that leaves about 161 still in captivity. So
161 Israelis or
others, I guess, mostly
that
Israelis.
includes Thais and
No, I think that I think all the non-Israelis, I think, were, except some Americans. So most, if not all, the 161 left are Israelis. So that's the big question is, so was this 6-day pause in exchange for hostages and the release of Palestinian, 3 times the number of Palestinian prisoners, was that a good thing for Israel?
Well, obviously Israel felt if not that it wasn't a great thing to stop the attack and get rid of the Hamas, because that made peace with Hamas in past conflagrations, past breakout of wars between them, and only to have it recur again and again, and worse each time. So from that point of view, I would have liked to see Israel and a lot of Israelis, and initially that's what the Prime Minister said, Bibi Netanyahu. He says our highest priority is to destroy Hamas and prevent it from happening one more time, because they killed 1,200 people in horrible fashion, including babies, even infants, and Holocaust survivors, older people, and raped women. I mean, it was horrendous. So, and also up to recently, up to the inception of this war, Hamas was firing from Gaza almost daily, and consistently, missiles loaded with destructive explosives towards Israel and towards occupied areas close to the border of Israel and Gaza. So from that point of view, I would have liked to see them continue, because a ceasefire gives and that's why they agreed to it, gives the Hamas terrorists, and they are terrorists, to pull something that, like that, what was it, October 7th or November?
October 7th.
October 7th incident where they attacked people Saturday morning that were attending what they call the peace meeting, a peace outing, and a concert that brought all these young people and some older people, and even mothers who brought along their babies to this event, where most of the people that were killed were present. So, on the other hand, Israel always took seriously what the Torah says, that if you save one person, it's as if you saved the whole world. So they care very much about life, about saving a life and so forth. So in order to save hostages, notwithstanding their determination to continue the battle and overcome Hamas once and for all, because Hamas says we'll do it again and again and again till we get rid of Israel, until it's in their charter, their founding charter, to destroy Israel and indeed all the Jewish people. So by having a ceasefire, some people said even now, Israel should take this ceasefire and turn it into a permanent peace deal, which Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli leadership and the military have no plan to do, even though they're being pushed to do it by outside countries and even many Americans who are backing Israel overwhelmingly. So, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I can't say if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a great thing to get back the hostages. When you see them come back and you hear their stories, even little kids, 4 years old, 9 years old, who saw their parents killed in front of them, it's beautiful to see them come back. And you have to appreciate what motivated Israel to indulge the ceasefire, to participate in this ceasefire.
I think Israel has taken a practical view here, and I think a wise one, because I don't think it's likely they're going to get all the hostages back unless there's a raid and they happen to get them, because Hamas is never going to give up 100% of its leverage. All right, so they gave 81 hostages back. They still have 161 left.
It's doubtful that they'll give back any of the men, or certainly not the
right. So if Israel,
IDF,
if Netanyahu just said, we're not going to cease fire, we're just going to keep going, then the chance of losing all 240 hostages is high. So if you can get back as many as you can. I mean, Israel's not going to stop till it's not. There's no way there's going to be a permanent ceasefire at this point. So they're going to keep going. So if they can get back as many as they can, they're not going to get them all, unfortunately. Then at least they've gotten back more than they would have if they just kept going forward. So I think it was a smart tactical move. I mean, they have to balance. They've always had this position: we don't negotiate with terrorists. So how do you reconcile that with what they're doing? They're given 3 times as many prisoners, right? And these are prisoners. These are people who weren't taken, abducted. So it's not an equivalency, and they're trying to make it an equivalency. We give you prisoners for innocent hostages. That's not really an equivalency. And we stop fighting. So Israel's giving a lot. So, in some ways, it's contradictory to their historical view of being very tough on terrorism. We don't negotiate with terrorists. So now, are they? I mean, they would say...
Len, you have to see the news today on some of the more liberal stations that assert or accept the posture or position of Hamas that what happened on October 7th was perpetrated by Israel to be able to inspire, incite this war. I mean, they have no qualms about telling whatever story propaganda-wise that makes them look better and Israel look like the worst. Israel killed 1,400 of their own people just to show how bad Hamas was. And we know that's not true because they were launching weaponized missiles daily against civilian targets.
Right. No, it has to be frustrating for the Israelis and the government because, here they even when they show Hamas releasing, that's like they look like regular people here. We're giving them, we're not, and you miss the whole reality that the brutality of what happened and what their real.
Yeah, I heard somebody this morning from a doctor, a fairly pretty doctor, a member of Doctors for
Doctors Without Borders.
Without Borders, and MSNBC gave her almost a half hour criticizing Israel bombing civilians and even doctors have been lost and hospitals, and so she was so critical, and all Hamas had to do to avoid that. Israel didn't precipitate or started out of the blue. All they had to do was not attack on October 7th. Israel wasn't attacking Hamas. But it shows you how it's very hard to defend yourself when anybody could say anything they want, and it's repeated over and over again by the media, or by good people like Doctors Without Borders or the Red Cross. It's very depressing if you're Jewish, if you have any feeling for Israel. So very depressing to see Israel.
Look, I mean, you feel bad when any innocent civilian child, anyone gets killed, but there's no good, nothing good comes of war.
I'm saying it's even worse that Israel, that I believe is innocent of precipitating this action without provocation, is described as the ones that created out of the blue the opportunity to attack Hamas. I mean, it's bad enough when you're accused of doing things that are justified as a response, but
So we're in the second day of an extension, a 2-day extension on the pause. 10, I guess, approximately 10 per day were supposed to be released in exchange for whatever 30 more prisoners.
That didn't
Qatar,
happen yet. The first 10 didn't happen yet, did
I
it?
think the yesterdays did, and then today,
Oh, yesterday was the 5th day?
yeah, today's the second day of the 2-day
Oh,
extension,
okay.
and I think there's supposed to be another release today. And now the talk and pressure from like Qatar and places like that is that the pause can be extended even beyond today, at that rate
I
of
believe
10 to
even the United
30
States
is
is
pushing for that.
pushing for it, and particularly the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is overwhelmingly pushing for total peace treaty. Stop all
Right.
the killing and all the wars. And
So if you were Netanyahu, would you continue a pause for every day you got 10 more people back?
I would continue an applause if he would go back and start where he left off and end once and for all this ability of Hamas to every couple of years, every few years,
So no,
and more.
you don't go one more day to get 10 people more.
Well, once they started that,
Because that's
I think
that's where they are right now. That's a decision they are really potentially facing today.
I think it's.
Do we go to Thursday to get 10? Do we go to Friday to get 20?
If they got 160 left,
That's 16 days.
that's 16 more days.
Right.
I mean, it's like, and if you can
I mean, they're never going to get all 660.
okay, so if it's
But would you go another
if
few
it's
days?
100,
I don't know. I mean,
if
I
it's
have to
100,
say.
it's 10 more days. With
So would you go?
such a ceasefire, such a break in the battles, it gives the enemy, in this case Hamas, a great opportunity to. As a matter of fact, they're bringing young men from the south to the north, and they're not bringing them to enjoy the view or anything.
Yeah.
They're bringing them to be warriors against the Israelis. So, what was the question?
The ceasefire ends today.
Yeah.
They're trying to get another extension, a day, a 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
Would you give them that to get 10 more? If not to just say we're stopping, but to get 10 more Israelis back.
I think they will do it because they're on that track.
Yeah.
And they don't, they got to respond to the feeling of a world, even though
Right.
it's unfair to use propaganda to some align as Israel as being vicious, and
I think since
they
Israel.
call Israel a lot of from the terror.
Yeah.
They call Israel the terrorist.
Yeah. I think because Israel has no intention of stopping before the mission's completed, it's just a matter of a tactical, do they lose more than they gain? Do they lose by waiting 1 more day, 2 more days, 3 more days? Does that allow the enemy to regroup enough that you lose a tactical advantage that 10 people aren't?
I have to give you a sense of reality. Israel cares so much about life. Stupidly, idiotically, that they traded 1,050
for one guy.
Palestinians or Hamas prisoners for one Israeli soldier, which was counterproductive because a lot of those people that they returned are now the ones perpetrating.
I think this time they're more careful on who they're letting out. I don't know if they're all
if they're letting out people.
Well, yeah, it's more. It's not any men. But still, it's people that perpetrated.
You'd rather not let out.
Were involved.
They're in there for a reason.
Yeah, they were involved in either killings
Right.
or maimings.
Terrorist plots of some form.
And then Israel killed so much of that.
There's probably no babies and 4-year-olds in prison like there are in captivity as hostages.
I saw some of the babies that were released in the last few days, Israeli babies, released back to Israel. And to me, they looked like terrorists, those babies. So I'm sure. But to show you how radical Israel was in terms of its behavior with respect to life and death, because with Lebanon, they traded a large number of prisoners that did a lot of bad things for just Israeli soldiers' bodies. So I don't know how you change that. I think it's wrong. I think, I can understand. And if it was my family that was a hostage, I would be screaming and yelling just the way all the parents are. But war is, soldiers are being killed. The sons and daughters of lots of families are being killed. And if you trade time and people that are going to do things against your people, your military, your IDF, men and women, you're being short-sighted, and you almost have to ignore the hostages and the screaming of their parents and uncles and children and cousins. I understand that. So hopefully this too shall pass, whether it's 2 more days or 5 more days. I just hope, because there's pressure even from the United States to make a settlement, not just that. It's amazing that in all this time we haven't taken that attitude towards Ukraine and Russia and said, make peace or stop, do a ceasefire, because civilians are getting killed. Israel has always kept up to a higher standard than any other country. The United States never took a ceasefire after 9/11 in Afghanistan. They went right in. They didn't stop one day.
Absolutely.
Until this day, they haven't made peace with North Korea or Afghanistan.
So let's talk about the U.S. and how it's positioned here. So Biden has been pretty.
See, it's so touchy, the subject. I have tears in my eyes.
Biden has been pretty supportive. He's getting more and more pressure every day to put some lean on Israel to either slow down or increase humanitarian aid or do something. Do you think that he's doing the right thing at this point? Should be changing his view? Should be doing something different?
Well, if you look at the facts on the ground, he's even held up. He was promising to send money for Israel to buy more supplies, military supplies from the United States to fight this battle. So it's already had an impact. And there's still not even an agreement to vote on these funds. And they're offering far more dollars after they've already spent billions in Ukraine. because we have the thing for the Soviet Union and Russia, so we're well motivated. But it's had an impact, and what does concern me and give me anxiety is whether the progressives of the, I don't know if they're progressives or just mean towards Jews and Israel, may succeed in stopping, because initially Biden said what I think was the right thing. We're going to back Israel all the way because they were unreasonably and unjustifiably attacked, and many of the people were killed, including babies. And so he said, we're definitely behind Israel. And then it sort of he goes back on that promise a little bit. He hasn't yet gone totally back. But that causes me some real anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly complicates it from the war effort planning point of view, because Israel's time frame is different than the U.S.'s or a lot of the rest of the world's time frame tolerance for war, for just any kind of war. Israel keep going till it's done at all costs, as they should.
You said Israel's more likely to start a war or be involved in a war?
No, I'm saying the time frame, the timeline for the conflict is different from the U.S.'s, because Israel has a timeline of whatever it takes, how long it takes till we achieve the objective.
Yeah, for Israel,
the U.S.
it's existential.
Correct. But for the U.S., that's why you see day one, Biden saying we'll stand shoulder to shoulder, no daylight between us and Israel. Then over time, well, maybe we can have ceasefire. Well, maybe we can. And so I think the U.S.'s tolerance for completion of the mission, if you will, is not the same as Israel's, and that can be a problem. That complicates this whole thing with the hostage release too, because they got to get on. They're not going to finish what they want to do by taking time off.
Not about directly Israel, but we've had some 75 incidents where our intelligence says that proxies of Iran, not Iran directly, but proxies, Lebanon, Syria,
Yemen,
have attacked Americans in Syria and in Iraq. And so far, I don't think there's been a lot of deaths, but there's been some Americans injured or killed. I don't know if anybody were killed yet. But what I take issue with Biden on his response to this, that he doesn't attack Iran or do something about it, and his reluctance to do anything, the American position of not doing anything against Iran, to me is brainless and self-destructive, because if they don't do something soon, this attack on the United States through proxies will continue. And I'm absolutely positive they will achieve a nuclear weapon, because it's not like it's impossible to get that knowledge, because North Korea has it, the one thing we know, Iran has tons of dollars available through oil sales and through $6 billion that Biden just returned to them. So they have something about $80 billion in cash. It doesn't take that much to buy the knowledge from Pakistan or North Korea or any other country that might have it. I don't know who else right now has it. And once they get a nuclear weapon, not only Israel, which is the small Satan in Iran's mind, but the United States, which is the big Satan, that we wouldn't suffer some consequences. I don't know if they could reach the United States or not, but certainly we have troops in 20, 30 countries, including Qatar. They could kill lots of our people. We have troops in Germany, we have troops all over the place, you know.
Speaking of Qatar, so why do you think that government's wanting to play the intermediary, peacemaker role that they're trying to play? What's their motivation in doing that?
Well, I think they do identify in a positive way with the Palestinians and through that Hamas, and a ceasefire is good for is desirable on the part of Hamas, and so in a way they're being helpful to Hamas. They're not. It's not just. And if they could get a peace deal after Israel's threatened to totally wipe out Hamas, that's likewise good for Hamas. Plus, all of the leadership, the really powerful guys that are running Hamas are stationed and living great lives in Qatar. They're billionaires. All the money that the UN sends and all the other countries to Hamas, to the people of Gaza, wound up in their hands. So Qatar is motivated to do it. And it's good PR because they're acting as, in the eyes of the world, as a peacekeeper.
That's true.
The biggest problem starts from square one. I take issue with Thomas Friedman, who was so naive, and I always think of him as so brilliant, and I love his columns and so forth. But I can't believe that he keeps advocating that Israel should start working on a Jewish state. They should do more. It's like he has no sense of history, because in 1947, the UN, in their partition arrangement, the area that the Palestinians and the Israelis were offered at that time was as a region under the mandate of Great Britain, and the UN, Great Britain agreed to give up that mandate. They weren't happy having to control, something that gave them little benefits, because there's no oil there. There's very little, not like in the other states. There's no great natural resources. As a matter of fact, before as Jews came into, it was more like a desert. The Jews brought in irrigation and water from the ocean, salt water that they, what do you call it? Desalinated. They brought in modern day technology, and now it's like a garden. I mean, it's fabulous, producing lots of great agriculture. So, but at that time, and the Palestinians were offered a separate state, plus sharing of Jerusalem, and they clearly turned it down, and then immediately, and since Israel, the Jews accepted it, they immediately attacked Israel, along with several other Arab nations, went against the Jews and the Israelis, even though they had no established government, no established army at that time. And it looked for sure like that the state would never be established. Miraculously, Israel overcame, I think it was 6 or 7 Arab states: Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan,
in Iraq, I think.
Iraq, yeah. All sent armies to fight the Israelis. In the end, as I say, miraculously, or by an act of God, had Israel overcome that vast army. So, but they clearly don't want and the charter, as I mentioned before, of Hamas is wipe out Israel. It's not on the map of Hamas. It's not on the map of the Palestinian Authority, and Israel's not on the map of many of the Middle Eastern nations. So clearly, there's no intention for them to want a state. They want a single state, not a joke. They want a single state that excludes Israel totally. You know, they said, let Israel take land somewhere else.
From the river to the sea.
Without recognizing that the Jews have been there thousands of years, you know. They've been kicked out several times, but they've always identified with it as their homeland and believe in the Old Testament promised to them by God. So, but just on the basis of the facts, Israel has been there persistently, consistently, back to before Jesus, but before Muslim was established, Islam was established. So they have, legitimate claim to a state, and it's a small. I think that what do you call it? The Middle Eastern nations, Arab nations, Muslim nations must have at least 1 million times, several million times, the size of Israel as a landmass. Israel has what some say is a fraction of New Jersey, maybe half the size of New Jersey's. And they have vast resources in oil and wealth. So, but they don't want a two-state. As I said, they've been offered to what literally was a two-state by both Prime Minister Barack some years ago, and then by Prime Minister Ahmed, the last one before the current Prime
Netanyahu.
Bibi Netanyahu, who followed Ahmed. It's his second or third. It's been the longest serving Prime Minister of Israel. And Ahmed met with the PLO 26 times, offered them almost everything they wanted. And how do you make a two-state solution if the other people don't want a two-state solution? They want a one-state solution. They're right. The only deal you could ever make is with your enemy, the one you're at war at. But you can't make an agreement unless they submit, like Japan did and Germany did, or they have the good sense or the 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 if it's not good sense, the wisdom that they want peace and give up something that they of what they insist on. But in this case, there's no indication at any point that they're interested in a two-state. If anything, there's tremendous evidence that they don't want a two-state.
I mean, that's going to, make the post-Hamas world very difficult in Gaza. I mean, they say that
It is.
how do you
That's what I'm
they'll
saying.
never completely eliminate every single Hamas. It's an ideology in the society to a large
Israel
extent.
says they don't want to go in and run it.
Well, I think they're going to have to.
Japan, with my father were running Japan.
I mean, I think they should.
For 8 years.
I think they should occupy and
I
do
don't,
it right.
I don't think there's an alternative.
Be it, show how you can create, right. a profitable, an economy that works where people have, jobs.
Yeah, an advantageous regime, because the Palestinians haven't been living a glorious life under Hamas.
Right. And I think that's Israel's only
But
choice.
they can't say that now. They have to say they have no interest in running it. They demonstrated that because they had control of Gaza,
and it was much
and they didn't demand anything.
Yeah,
they didn't get any payments. So Israel's demonstrated over and over again. They gave Egypt back the Sinai, and in fact, Saddam Hussein.
Sadat
came, the only Arab prime minister that ever showed up in Israel at the Knesset and made a speech, and they killed him for that. There's two people they killed that showed an interest in making peace. Somebody before the British gave up control of that land. Somebody came from Jordan who was proposing something similar, and he was killed because if you show that you're going to lean towards Israel in the slightest fashion.
So it cost them. Yep. So we have a few minutes left. Let's talk about how what's happening in the Middle East is spilling over into outside the Middle East, in particular the U.S.
Oh my God! Yes.
How we see not just anti-Semitic actions and protests and things, but we see some anti-Muslim actions. In particular, just the other day in Vermont, where 3 Palestinian students, it seems, were walking along the street, didn't seem to be part of a pro-Hamas demonstration or anti-Israel demonstration, and were shot by allegedly this guy who came out of his house and shot him.
We don't know if that was related to what's going on in Israel or not, because so far even though they've had access to his computer, I imagine for a week now, and when they tried to question him, he said he won't say anything. I want a lawyer. He hasn't, since he got his lawyer, he hasn't given him any intelligence of why he did it, so they still don't know.
Yeah.
It may be that they live near, he lives near where they were, and maybe they were behaving in a way that annoyed him. Who knows? But until we get that information, we don't know if it's related to the actions in Gaza. Hamas, no, because
in Gaza, yeah.
Gaza.
So, let's talk how, back to your comment on some of the liberal progressives, I find somewhat ironic, at least, that a lot of the liberal progressives, or you hear that, they're threatening to withhold support of the Democratic candidate like Joe Biden in 2024 because he's too supportive of Israel. And
Yeah.
I find that so amusing because what's their alternative to, if Trump's a nominee, do they really think that he would be better for Palestinians? And
They do feel that.
he first thing Trump wants to do is reinstate a Muslim ban. He wants to round
A
up
ban meaning not allowing Muslims to
Yeah.
come into the country.
which he tried when he was last
Yeah, which he
president.
did.
Yeah, and then he wants to round up illegals and deport mass deportation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're, I mean, it's one thing if you can argue Trump is better or worse for Israel than the Democrats. That's a fair argument.
Well, no,
But to say any
you're
Republican,
assuming that Biden would get in, or Trump would get in, but their view is if we don't back Biden, we might get somebody who's more
a different progressive.
Yeah, another, the one from Michigan who's a Muslim, or the one from Queens who's got the biggest
AOC, yeah.
following and the biggest mouth.
I mean, I guess that's a wishful,
But you're right.
unrealistic
You're
thing.
right.
I mean, let's talk reality. It's going to be,
No, that's
Yeah.
a reality. Somebody else could get. I don't think any of those progressives will get in, but it might be somebody that's more receptive to the equality of the two groups. There is a lot of Democrats and others that feel it's they're both good. There's a lot of them say there's no one that has clean hands in this. That's bull, because I just told you 15 things that they turned down on the basis of going for two states. I think I have to write a piece on Thomas Friedman. And I love the way he writes. I subscribe to the New York Times just for his column. So
and the Custer puzzle.
because I like the way he writes, and he's very intelligent. But how does he come up with this? Let's just let Israel work out a two-state solution with somebody that doesn't want a state. How do you give him a state?
Easier said than done. So, with that said, we're just about out of time. We can
Are we out of time or not?
pretty much, we can look ahead to the next couple of weeks. We've got a debate coming up. I think another Republican debate among the candidates who have announced, and then another debate between one candidate who's announced and another who hasn't announced. Gavin Newsom.
The thing that's changed a little bit is Haley. What's her first name?
Nikki.
Nikki Haley seems to be making some progress, and it's feasible that she could become the Republican presidential nominee. Not because she's catching up to Trump in the polls or in the numbers, but it's feasible that Trump could be dislodged based on his all his court
Legal troubles?
legal troubles. It looks like that's unlikely to happen because he seems to be able
Delay.
to stall it till after the election, and if he gets elected, he'll dismiss the whole Justice Department.
Yeah.
He'll,
It goes to just the craziness of both parties where, I mean, Nikki Haley would easily defeat Joe Biden. And someone like Michelle Obama would probably easily defeat Donald Trump. And yet, neither party would put up
I don't know
a
if
candidate
Newsom,
that could defeat.
I don't know if Newsom would.
Maybe not, but Michelle Obama probably would.
But we don't know that she's interested in.
Well, we don't. I mean,
We know
it's all
Newsom,
hypothetical,
we
but
know Newsom would take it.
right.
Yeah.
But still, it's the fact that just the craziness of the part of, and the reason it's tough for Nikki Haley is just because it's only Republicans who vote in Republican primaries generally. I think some states might be a little different, but for the most part, so those are the much more fervent, hardcore people, and they tend to really.
And we're getting close to the first primary battle.
Yeah.
I think it's in January. Iowa. And I don't think at this juncture she can beat Trump in Iowa.
But she loses. I think she loses to Trump in her own state, in South Carolina.
South Carolina. She has a chance. She has a chance, as does.
Where, in New Hampshire?
Christie.
New Hampshire. But
you know, the Chinese have a saying, a prayer: God, save me from living in interesting times. We're living in very interesting times, very entertaining times. If you think that every day that you turn on the television, there's some news about Trump or some news about the war or some news about the election. It's not boring. It's definitely interesting. It may not be desirable or healthy or constructive, but so that I never understood that prayer, because I think, why wouldn't you want to live in interesting times? It's too interesting.
All right, that's a good message to end.
It's still my view that if Trump gets in, then Donald Trump will be the natural, without a vote, the natural successor. Just like a king, he will set himself up as a king.
I think
my kids don't believe that.
Liz Cheney might agree with you. She just wrote a book. Her book was just put out yesterday. I think,
but I don't think it's
saying how.
But she says. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. She's saying, and the guy is going to testify that as McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy. She says he said it. They could call him up to testify. He said, I have no recollection. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, but her warning
but
if Trump gets reelected.
That's not testimony that
but I'm saying it's consistent with your view and warning of what could happen with the country is what she is warning similarly, that if Trump's reelected, that's could be it.
Talk to my kids who are very strong for Trump and think Biden is a total disaster, and especially with respect to Israel, they think so. But in general, about the economy, they just think he's a disaster. And I tell them, but I'm frightened by Trump because he's demonstrated that he won't turn it over to the next. If he loses, And he's been honest about it. Even in 2016, during the debate, they asked him, the interviewers.
Would you accept the outcome? If I
Yeah,
win, yes.
he
If not,
said,
no.
Yeah, if I win.
He was
No,
telling the
he didn't
truth.
say, he didn't say if not.
Maybe. He said maybe.
He said, if I win, yes, you know. And then he demonstrated that exactly.
Mhm.
And now it came out yesterday that Pence was thinking of, because Trump was his friend, of following Trump's request not to show up at Congress that morning. And the way it was reported is that his son, who's in the Army or Navy or in the armed forces of the United States, said, Dad, you swore to the same Constitution that I did, so you have to adhere to the Constitution. That's presumably what happened. So he almost pulled it off, because if he got that delay, he would have found a way, including calling in the Army and so forth. You know, I think the Army, incidentally, what we spoke about earlier, but doing something about Iran, I think the Army or the leaders of the Army think that we should be responding more strongly against Iran, because we're not doing anything. We're not even increasing the sanctions or anything. Not that the sanctions work. We've got sanctions against Russia, we've got sanctions against Iran. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great. We're being with you on Wednesday at 6:30. I look forward to being back with you again next week at 6:30 Wednesday. So have a great week, not a wake.
Yeah.
Great week. Although I once went to an Irish wake. One of my stockbrokers who worked for me, one of his clients was having a wake for, I guess, his brother or his father. And I was going out to dinner with him. He said, would you mind stopping off at this wake? So I said, no, you know, I'll accompany you. I never saw such a party in my life. The corpse was dressed up and looked better than I ever saw him in his lifetime. And it was the wildest party. Everybody was so happy and drinking. So, not a wake, but so weak. What did I say? So weak?
A week. We'll see you in a week.
Oh, a week, not weak. Yeah. Have a great week. Have a great every day of your life. I love you all.
All right.